Okay, future AP US History students, I wanted to go over the summer assignment with you. First, I want to make sure that you know how to find it. So from the ASFG homepage, you go to Special Programs, Summer Assignments, scroll down, and then click on AP US History. Here's the directions at the top. First, make sure you get a textbook from the bookstore before you leave school this year. You do need it to complete it. And I also highly recommend printing out the summer assignment, or else you're going to do a lot more writing than you necessarily need to. There's two parts. Part one is due the first day of school, and part two is the third day of school. So just keep that in mind. The first day of school should be accurate, August 14th. The third day of school depends on which period the AP class is offered. I haven't been told what period it will be. So that's either like a Wednesday or Thursday. So the first part is just reading the first two chapters of the textbook and using the questions that appear in the following pages to as like guided reading notes. I form the questions from the AP curriculum, so they're not perfect. They don't fit our textbook perfectly, but they're as good as we're gonna get. Your answers have to be handwritten. They must be handwritten. There are no excuses for this. They have to be handwritten. The answers, that is. The questions can be printed out and pasted in a notebook. You are going to need a notebook for the course. I recommend maybe ooh, like a 200 or maybe even like a three subject notebook. Um, a lot of stuff is handwritten in my class, and you use your notebook all the time. Um, your answer should be in outline format, and some of you guys who write too much in your notes, hopefully you'll learn what is actually most important and you don't have an overwhelming amount of information. Um, I also put the page numbers to try to help you with your responses. I'll go over that. Actually, let's look at part one right now. So chapter one is about what the Americas were like before the Europeans arrived. And these questions, there's an essential understanding here. Um, Please don't just skip over this. So think about what this says. As Native Americans migrated and settled across North America over time, they developed distinct and increasingly complex societies by adapting to and transforming their diverse environments. So what that's saying is like the settlement of North America happened over this really long period of time, and over that time, the societies that developed are really unique because they depending on the environment around them. So you are supposed to support this essential understanding with these questions. So, like, what is the crop that they use? Hopefully, you know that, especially being from Mexico, that would result in the diversification of societies. And how did it influence them? And then it asks you to get little more specific about different areas of the Americas, especially North America, Northwest, like Washington and Oregon area, and the West Coast, like California. And then you need to be specific. And then I ask you about the Great Basin and Great Plains. So that one is all about Native Americans. I'm only going to do, let's see, I'll do one more with you just so we can illustrate this point. The second essential understanding is that when Europeans, Native Americans, and Africans met, that there was this phenomenon called the Columbian Exchange, and that led to this intermixing on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. So there's an exchange of ideas, food, diseases, everything else, um, animals, and the effect of European expansion in the Western Hemisphere greatly affected. Let me see, intensive. And the discovery of the New World greatly affected European societies too. So you're gonna do why do European nations want to explore and conquer? Um, So like, God, glory, gold, and explain all that. Please be specific. Tell me about like Spanish and French. And then how did the discovery of the New World affect Europe? So yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead to part two just so you see. Part two are these graphic organizers that would help you. Remember that these aren't due till the third day, but you might as well get them done as you complete the parts of the chapters that refer to it. So this graphic organizer that has to do with compare and contrast European and American Indian culture, like that's going to be from chapter one. So you can get it done probably pretty quickly while you're doing chapter one. You can also go back to it. This one is about the reasons for exploration among these three groups, and then there's two more over here. So causes for exploration, the characteristics, and the consequences. So again, that sounds like chapter one to me. This one is a map. I think you'll find this map. The directions are in part two, but the exact map is somewhere in chapter one, and it'll be greatly that map in the chapter will be greatly helpful, greatly useful for you in completing that map. So okay, so that's mostly part one. That's chapter one. Chapter two is the next one. It's slightly different, and the directions are slightly different. So I put in this one. The goal of this is to help you guys take better notes. And so I provide you with a task, explain why England was slow to enter the colonization race and what factors finally led it to launch colonies in the 17th century. And then I gave you some specific terms that I want you to make sure you cover. So I did the first one for you, that the Protestant Reformation and the experience of England taking over Ireland affected how England would colonize the New World. So King Henry breaking with the Roman Catholic Church automatically set up some competition with the Catholics as like the big Protestant power in Europe, and England was like watching Spain and seeing like how wealthy it was getting from its New World empire and wanted to get in on the game. An interesting side note that is important is that the English fought a war with Catholic Ireland, and that kind of a lot of those attitudes of like white superiority really would shape how the English treated the Native Americans. So I also provided other terms. I expect your notes to include terms, specific information, and then notes about that term and how it relates to this. Okay, so it goes on to some other ones. Yeah, so I try to get pretty detailed. I hope the goal again is just so that you take better notes, and I basically gave you most of the answers. I just need you to fill in the details. Part two is those historical thinking skills. I show you that Venn diagram. I showed you the content frame, like that chart, and then the map of North America, and here's the directions of what actually to include on that map. And then there are two worksheets, and I think these ones mostly have to do with chapter two. So let me show you the last two worksheets. One is about the Pueblo Revolt. It's a famous situation that happened in the Spanish colonies, in the North American Spanish colonies. And you can't really do this without doing the reading. You have to understand what the Pueblo Revolt was before you can do this reading. And then this one is two historians and their take on Columbus. So, there's a summer assignment. Make sure you get a book. Make sure you print this out so you don't have to write down all these questions. You can just paste them in your notebook. And I look forward to seeing you the first day of school and collecting the summer assignment. Thank you guys.